me today is very talented Dia Mirza, who wears many hats. And right now, she is in Manali, while most of us are bearing this blistering heat, especially those of us who are in Delhi, NCR, and other parts of North India. Dia is an actor, she's a producer, she's United Nations Environment Program Goodwill Ambassador. She's UNSG's advocate for sustainable development goals. And above everything else, one very important hat that she wears is of being the face of many environmental programs across India. Dia, thank you very much for joining us here on Mirror Now. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you, Hina. It's my pleasure. And you're right, it's absolutely wonderful here. And I was very much in Delhi when the heat wave struck, filming in the blistering heat with surface temperatures touching 50 degrees. And they were truly inhuman conditions to work in. And my heart goes out to people who are doing manual labor in that extreme heat out there in direct sunlight. It's hard. It's really, really hard.
Dia, that's a real example of why we are having this conversation today. The kind of heat wave conditions that we are seeing in different parts of the country, wildfires, forest fires have become so normal these days. Something that we all need to really take very, very seriously, isn't it?
Well, climate change is definitely something that we all need to take very seriously because it impacts every one of us. Thankfully, I think the deniers of climate change are few. And I think more and more people are recognizing that it's not just weird weather, it is climate change. And it's no thanks to the fact that, like you mentioned, there's been a frequency and intensity of drought, of floods, of forest fires, heat waves, and we're all experiencing the wrath directly. And the IPCC report states something quite remarkable, and I believe that individual action, therefore, will truly bring necessary change. While it's so important and urgent for us to halve greenhouse gas emissions within this decade, within the next 8 years, to ensure that the temperature rise is not beyond 1.5 degrees. What is very interesting in the current IPCC report, and I'm going to share this here with you, is that it says that sustainable lifestyles and behaviors could reduce emissions by 40 to 70% by 2050, which essentially means that you and I can contribute towards bringing about positive change and help reduce the impacts of climate change. And something that our Prime Minister is planning to launch tomorrow, which is called the LIFE Initiative, LIFE, which essentially focuses on a lifestyle for the environment, offering solutions, something that I've been trying to practice for several years now and share along the way with my community of people who follow me on social media. It's something that if every one of us were to embrace, can truly bring about a huge change.
What is it that Dia Mirza is doing for our Earth, for our planet, and why is she doing it?
Well, I'm doing it because I love our planet. It's the only living, breathing planet that supports such extraordinary life forms. And of course, it's the planet that is home to our families, our friends, our children, our loved ones. And it's in serious crisis. We are threatened by a triple planetary crisis: the crisis of climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. And all of us have to make the changes that we need to, and of course, compel world leaders and governments and policymakers and industries to bring about the changes necessary to fix these problems, because our survival depends on it, but not just our survival. So it's not a question of, an extinction. Of course, there will be an extinction. The Earth has survived many extinctions. And perhaps the Earth will do well without the human species. But the question is, how much are we going to suffer on the path to that extinction? And it's already begun. We are accelerating the process of that extinction. And we're causing extraordinary harm to not just each other, but to several other species by leading to, their complete disappearance from the planet. I want a healthy life for my children. I want them to be able to drink clean water. I want them to have healthy food to eat. I want them to have an abundance of natural resources that sustain their life and their livelihoods. And quite frankly, just that. And I don't want them to suffer. I don't want them to suffer inhuman circumstances. I don't want them to suffer because of polluted air and lack of water and access to all the very things that we have enjoyed through our lifetimes. And the thing that inspires me and motivates me every day, Hina, is the power of personal action. I really believe when we are a part of the solution, we feel a lot less overwhelmed by the enormity of the problem, but also in many ways we can reduce the problem. And so some of the things that I have managed to bring change with or do in my life is, of course, it starts with understanding that all our actions have consequences on the natural world. So how we consume, what do we eat, what do we wear, how do we live, how do we travel, all of this matters. I've managed to refuse single-use plastics for over 6 years now. And I carry my own metal bottle wherever I go. But along with this, I have a set of cutlery that travels with me everywhere. I have my own bag that travels with me everywhere. So I managed to refuse plastic bags, single-use plastic straws, single-use plastic bottles, sanitary napkins, regular napkins, which are made mostly with plastics. I've managed to refuse all items of consumption that are available naturally, unpackaged, when they are packaged. And I've grown trees, over 8,000 trees in the last 4-5 years. And I segregate and manage waste at home. I practice a mostly plant-based diet. My overall patterns of consumption. So, when I was younger, there was, like many of us, there's always that excitement about new trends or new clotheslines or fashion trends and all of that. I don't pander after any of those things anymore. I care about consuming garments mindfully, about using them over extended periods of time, passing them on when I don't want to wear them anymore. But more than anything else, sourcing every item of consumption that is created with consciousness towards the earth and the health.
Was it difficult to adopt this kind of a lifestyle? How long did it take for you to do what you are doing today, what you're telling the world? Because what you're saying is very simple. A lot of us know that, this will help the planet, this will be good for the environment, but for some reason or the other, for our own compulsions, we're not able to make these very little changes which are required in our lives. So I want to understand your life story. Was it easy, or did it take time, or did you, make that conscious effort that no, it needs to be done, and hence you have to do it?
I feel convenience is the biggest lie human beings have told themselves, right? So it is a matter of convenience that most people choose to drink from packaged bottles, or to accept a plastic bag when they go shopping, or to not manage waste at home. But these are, I think, when you draw attention to yourself, to the fact that in not doing these basic things, you are in fact harming the health of your loved ones and your own health, then I guess what's the point of doing yoga and eating right and doing, all kinds of physical activities to keep yourself fit, when you're not caring about the fitness or the health of the environment that in fact contributes for the most part towards human health. So it's about just pushing for change. I'll give you an example for, say, waste management at home, right? When we started segregating waste, I travel a lot. I'm not always home. It takes time to change behaviors. So it took a few months to get everyone at home, including house help, used to the concept of segregating that waste and learning how to compost the wet waste, and then to get the entire co-op to do the same, and then to maintain that effort year after year. And I'm happy to, kind of be vigilant, supervise it, and continue doing it. And yeah, there are times when some people don't do it because they don't have the time or the bandwidth, or they're just plain lazy. But eventually, I feel when you are consistent in your efforts, people around you learn and start doing the things that are necessary. Like one of the interventions that we successfully made to avoid all plastic bags coming home was because we have the culture of ordering in, right? So our grocery stores or our medical store, they all send supplies home, everything that we need. So what we did was we deposited cloth bags with our flat number and our name at the stores. And we said, whenever you deliver to this flat, please make sure you use this bag. Once or twice they may forget, I send it back. And I said, until you bring it back in my cloth bag, I'm not taking it. And then they learn, and now they all practice this, and with great pride they ring the bell, and there they are with that big cloth bag ready to serve, deliver fruits, vegetables, medicines, whatever may it be that is being delivered home, all arrives in the cloth bag. So I think, instead of making excuses, we all need to start finding ways to actually implement the changes that are necessary, because they can be done.
I mean, whatever you have told us is very, very simple. Of course, it can be done. And before I talk to you about the word sustainability that you used earlier, one more question I would ask you. Where did this drive really come from? What made you so conscious about the planet, about the environment? Was it something that happened maybe in your school? Was it something that happened, maybe when you started acting in Bollywood? What was that one moment which made you realize that, no, I need to change my life. I need to look after the environment?
It starts with school, of course. I was born in the year that the first bells for climate change started to ring in 1981. But the first reports were made available to the world. But my school, thankfully, was extremely conscious and mindful about what was happening. And they worked very hard on implementing a deep understanding that we were a part of nature, and that everything that we consumed was coming from nature. We needed to be mindful, respectful. We needed to care. We needed to love the natural world. And we spent many hours doing classes under trees and bird watching. And so that, I think, was a great foundation. It was my early life that really fostered a deep, abiding relationship with nature. When I started working in film, I, of course, started working with non-government organizations for cancer care and other ailments, and discovered that many of the situations or the health-related conditions that such a big majority of people are experiencing exist because of environmental pollution and degradation. And that kind of made me seek out interventions and ways to fix the problem at the root, and not fix the or not try and fix the outcomes of the problem. So I was fortunate enough to work with and meet some extraordinary people who've been mentors in this journey. People like Bittu Sehgal, people like Vivek Menon, and many others who have taught me, who've taken me to the wild, who've taken me to forests of India, who've helped me understand the challenges at the grassroots level, the problems that environmentalists experience, and really the gap in understanding that environmental action is not obstructionism to development, and that both environment and development can go hand in hand. And that's possible. And then, of course, my journey with the United Nations has been remarkable, because it's given me so much exposure and access to the science and to good people all over the planet who are doing great work. So I learned from them, and with them learn to implement the changes I can. Because Hina, you know, it's not possible to be a good ambassador or an advocate if you're not implementing the changes that you need to in your own life.
We've been talking about climate change, the impact it is having on each one of us, and it's impacting us. And that's why, again, in 2022, we are talking about it. Has that now started translating into action as well? Do you see that change among people happening? Is your community growing?
Yes, most certainly. I see a big change in young people because they're really driving efforts to bring about change, behavioral change, not just in their own homes or their schools, but within the communities. I've interacted and engaged with young people who are setting up waste management systems. They're young people who are fighting for better air quality. There is this incredible network of mothers in the capital who is drawing attention to air pollution and pointing to solutions every single day. And there are, of course, young people who are championing efforts to help conserve water, to protect forests, wildlife. There's a lot of work happening. But having said that, I feel, Hina, that the real change, the big changes will happen when governments start implementing action. And, when we make commitments, or we sign up for the SDGs, or we sign the Paris Agreement, these are not token commitments. These are commitments where we're essentially saying that we are going to care for people and planet, that we are not going to destroy existing green cover. I am horrified that, we're continuing to fell lakhs and lakhs of trees in the name of development or infra projects. We cannot afford to do that, because we cannot at any point in time forget the fact that the country occupies just 2.4% of geographical landmass on the earth, but it is home to the second largest population on the planet. And this population depends entirely on the forest cover that we have, the existing forest cover, which is, dense forest cover is less than 5%. And that itself, just that statistic itself should make us so much more considerate about conserving our natural environments and doing much more to protect existing green cover. Of course, we need to increase green cover. We need to grow more trees, and each and every one of us can contribute to that cause. But we can't fool ourselves by saying, by planting 5 lakh saplings, it's okay to cut 2 lakh trees. Existing green trees have so much more work that they've already done and will continue to do. So there are mindsets that need to change. And more than anything else, I think we all need to recognize the power that we yield, wherein we can come forward and question new infrastructure for projects, new roads, new highways, things that are happening that are possibly, upsetting the balance of the natural world. And we're seeing much proof of that, whether it's the campaign to save Dibang Valley or it's the campaign to save Molim. And there are many other campaigns that are being initiated in the north, especially in Uttarakhand, or individuals who are running, foundations like the Healing Himalayas. Pradeep Sangwan setting up, waste management centers in villages to manage our waste better. We have Afroz Shah leading the biggest beach cleanup drives in the world. So yeah, yes. I feel like there are lots of individuals doing a great amount of good work. Many of them are being recognized in the public space, also in the media, for the work that they're doing.
I also wanted to talk to you about the word sustainability, which you mentioned earlier. When all of us were locked indoors, nature really came out. Do you think this pandemic has made people aware and conscious of this word sustainability? Are more and more people, doing something about it? Do you think that change is also happening because of the pandemic?
I think the pandemic definitely worked as a wake-up call. I think more people recognize that the skies were bluer than they've been in decades. And of course, so many people witnessed, like you mentioned, wildlife and nature, reoccupying spaces that they totally abandoned.
Hmm.
And I think people recognize the fact that nature is a self-repairing system. Where we give her the chance to breathe, she will come back and become and bring the sense of balance that we need. But I also feel human beings have very short-lived memories, and we need to continue to do much more to remind ourselves and each other that we are entirely dependent on the natural world for our survival, and that we're not separate from it, and that all of our actions affect nature. So hopefully we'll continue to remind each other.
Absolutely. One quick last question. What is going to be your message to the people who are watching you right now? You know, of course, when it comes to days like World Environment Day, we talk about it, but it is also important to talk about protecting nature, protecting environment, the remaining 364 days. So what is going to be Dia's message to the viewers who are watching us? One small change that they can begin in their life from this moment onwards to save the planet, because it's only one Earth that's there for all of us.
Well, the answer was in your question, Hina. I think we all need to become aware and respectful and mindful of the fact that we have only one Earth. It is our only home, and our actions and our inaction makes a difference. And it is up to us whether we choose to make a positive difference or not. I think the one thing that I appeal to everyone to start thinking about is that your life, your health, your survival is connected with the natural world. Ask yourself, what are the choices you can make today to live in harmony with nature? And I've illustrated many examples. The internet is flooded with options. Find one action that you will make, whether it is to segregate your waste at home, or it is to refuse plastics, or it is to eat a mostly vegetarian diet. Whatever that action may be, make it, because you can make a difference.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Dia. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. You're such an inspiration, not just for me, but for this entire generation and for all the viewers, I'm sure, who are watching you right now. Thank you very much for taking our time.
Thank you.